Welcome back to the Miami Book Hub. This is our second episode of this wonderful new podcast where we bring on folks from Miami's growing and blossoming literary community to talk about what they do, whether they've written a book or trying to write a book, reading a book, promoting books, selling books, you name it. We're here to promote and support Miami's literary community. I'm your host, J. Adrian Betancourt. I am an urban planner by day, an aspiring author and reader and lover of books by night. And so I'm really launching this as a passion project. I feel like there's so much going on in the world of literature here in Miami, and it needs to be celebrated. And of course, we have a long tradition of wonderful institutions celebrating literature, promoting it, and none greater than the Miami Book Fair. And so I'm so very honored and proud and happy to welcome the executive director of the Miami Book Fair, Lissette Mendez, to the program. Lissette, welcome.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I'm going to call you Jay for this episode.
Jay's great.
What do you think? Okay. I like that. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to have the chance to talk about books with you and a new show about books in Miami. I'm
Right.
more than welcome.
We can never have enough, right?
Never have enough. And I don't know that we have one.
Yeah,
So
it's a little presumptuous to call this the Miami Book Hub because the real hub of all things Miami and books is the Miami Book Fair.
well, that's just, we're one of the hubs, let's say.
Certainly a major one. And I mean, everyone loves the book fair. It's been around for a long time. How long has the book fair been here in Miami?
So this will be our 43rd year.
Wow.
So it's incredibly proud. I'm incredibly proud to say that I'm part of an organization that's been bringing books and readers and authors together for 43 years right here in our own city.
That's like, boy, the big 5-0 isn't too far around the corner. So I'm sure you're already preparing for that celebration.
Well, not quite yet. We're still just trying to get it together for this year's, but
1 year at a time.
yeah, but we're a year-round organization, and
Yes.
that's one of the things that I'm really happy that you called me to have this conversation today, because I don't know that I often get to talk about how Miami Book Fair continues to serve our community with books and literary and writing programs all 12 months of the year. So thank you.
And listen, I can attest to that because as an aspiring author, the easy part was writing the book to some extent. That's difficult enough to do. But then it's like, what do you do with it, right? How do you publish it? How do you sell it? How do you get the word out? And so one of the places I turned to early on was you and the Miami Book Fair. And you were a great resource and really guided me in terms of things I can do, events I could attend, workshops I could attend, to both hone my craft as someone who, didn't learn this. I never took a writing class, I think, in my life, other than English. But then also the publishing world, which can be very daunting for someone who, hasn't done it before. And then the whole, selling of the book. And so you have all these resources at your disposal. You put on these workshops. You expose writers and authors to the resources they need to actually become successful. So let's talk about that aspect of what you do.
Yeah. So about 20 some odd years ago, the Miami Book Fair started growing its year-round a series of programs, and that's when I came on board. I had just finished my MFA in creative writing. I was working in communications. I actually was working in the college's communications department, and just trying to write my own book. Trying to finish my own book for my thesis project, doing all of that. And I get hired. I move over from the communications department to the Miami Book Fair. I get hired to do that. And our former executive director at the time, Alina Interian, she had a great interest in continuing to grow the year-round programming. And one of the things that I identified right away was that writers like yourself, like I was, like so many of our friends, did not really have a place in South Florida, in Miami, to go take classes and workshops, high quality, good, published authors who worked as teachers. other than the MFA programs or degree seeking programs.
Right.
And, not everyone's ready for a degree seeking program. Not everyone has the funding or the funds to be able
Or pursuing other
to pursue
careers,
it.
and this is like a side hobby.
Right. Or you're working full
Yeah.
time all day long and then you can't really dedicate yourself fully, but you have
Mhm.
the time that you do have, you want to dedicate it. And that's how we started. We started with creative writing workshops. We started with a writers conference every year. And it's continued and it's been really successful. And we've been able to serve so many folks in South Florida. Very early on, not only did we have the different workshops for, whether it was fiction and nonfiction, poetry and, themes and topics within the genres, but also the publishing side, trying to demystify, every industry
Mhm.
has its set of, practices, and gatekeepers or, and publishing is no different.
Right.
It makes it harder for folks that are outside of the New York City hub, even though things have changed a lot with the changing of the times,
Sure.
with
Technology.
technology, right, bringing us closer, using Zoom or other kinds of telecommunications. But really, it's still very much a business about people reading books.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, whether now you have more access. People still need to read your book. They need to get your book in order to read it, in order to consider it for publication. And so that whole process has always been a little opaque. And we decided very early on that we wanted to make sure that everyone who was coming to us because they wanted to be a writer or they wanted to write a book got that side of the process as well, as you mentioned, how to find an agent, how to query an agent. Once you do find an agent, what is it that they actually do with your book? What are independent editors? And I think along the lines of writing books and publishing, I think our work has become even more important. And I do, one of the being part of Miami-Dade College, which is, not just our home, but the mission of Miami-Dade College is very aligned with our own mission. We want to make things affordable, easy
Mhm.
access to everyone in the community. So very early on, we decided we were going to keep costs as low as we possibly could. Miami-Dade College is very generous in their support in terms of using classrooms, using the spaces. And then we have a great and growing support system of donors who, everything that Miami Book Fair does is supported by donors primarily. And, these are folks that also really believe in giving as many people as possible, the chance to tell their stories. That's what we're all about. So yeah, we're still doing it. And now, it's easier in some ways to publish a book.
Right.
There's so many channels to be able to do so. And one thing we have found that is very upsetting is that there are some organizations out there that are really just preying on folks that don't
Yeah,
have
it's true.
full knowledge.
I've run into a lot of it.
And that's something that I don't know that,
Mm.
we're talking about as much as we should. Folks like you and me who are really embedded in the publishing or in the literary world. Um, and I would like those folks that are, thinking about publishing their books, to come through us first. We're really inexpensive. We're almost free,
Sure.
and that way they can get a full picture.
Yeah, if you can't trust Miami-Dade College, you can't trust anyone.
So
And I think, a lot of the book fair success must be because you're associated, you grew out of the college. And I've always thought that Miami-Dade College is the most indispensable organization or institution in Miami-Dade County. It's really what's allowed us to succeed. You have all these immigrants who come with nothing, and through the college, they're able to make something of their lives because of the ease of access and the great training and education they get there.
yeah.
And then they can move on, to other institutions or whatever. But I think the college really is the heart of this community. And yeah, it's the mission is to teach and educate. And so the book fair isn't just about selling books and promoting them, but actually teaching authors how to write and the business side of it. So I think it's really a great marriage.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely a part of it. And I do agree. Again, even though we really survive and depend on sponsorship and donor support. Miami-Dade College has made it possible for us, for Book Fair to exist all of these years. It was founded at Miami-Dade College.
Hmm.
And it's our home, and we're embedded in the college
Yeah.
community. And not just bringing access to the public, but to college students as well. Authors who come through Miami Book Fair, whether it's year-round programming or during the fair, also do work with the college students in their classrooms, integrating the books. I mean, we've had such great success with that.
And it's a great commercial for the Wolfson campus, I mean, primarily through the actual fair. But I imagine you do things in other campuses as well throughout the year.
All the campuses,
Yeah.
yeah. We go everywhere.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And beyond the campuses, I know you're everywhere, literally. Literally everywhere.
Yes.
And particularly, obviously, here in Miami, although I'm sure you do things even beyond this city. But what is it about the book fair in Miami that makes it distinctive? Like, there are other literary festivals, other events throughout the country. What is unique about this one? And how is it that being in Miami brings kind of that distinct flavor?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can talk about that on so many levels. I think if we talk about it as an event that people come to, regardless of what they're there to do, it's so fun.
It's a party.
It's a party. I always say there's no party like a book party. And people probably look at me like, she's nuts. But it's true. I mean, even if you don't read, you come to the book fair and there's live music, there's great food, there's so much for kids to do. So on one level, one of the things that I love so much about book fair, and that I've worked so hard, and the our small but mighty team and the college support is, this is a place that everyone in Miami can feel comfortable and come together and, be in each other's company. If they happen to connect over a specific author or book in a session, even better. If they're just there with their kids running around Children's Alley, beautiful. If they're just coming because there's a band on the stage that they like, fantastic. It's like, come on out and be with each other.
It's an open house.
And and it really is. I mean, we're almost free. It's like $10. You come in the door, kids are free. So that's always been very important to us, making it so accessible that everyone in Miami feels comfortable, and that no one in Miami, no one outside of Miami, wherever they come from, feel that they have to be dressed a certain way, or read a certain kind of book, or just there's not
there's no
just come as
snobbery.
you are.
There's no snobbery.
None. I think one of the things I mentioned the other day when I was talking to someone, it's like, come in your pajamas. We really don't mind. We're a college campus. Kids are in their pajamas half the time anyway. So I just come and be part of your community. Miami is a very special place, as you mentioned. And this is, part of what makes Book Fair so special is I don't feel that we have a very cliquey kind of city.
Right.
Yeah, there's, like your sports nuts and whatever, but we are very mixed together.
Very open.
It's like arroz con frijoles, and then throw unos platanitos in there, and then, like, it's all good. And so I think that's what makes Book Fair and Miami special, and writers love that. I mean, authors come from all over the country and all over the world, and they're like, oh my God, they're almost shocked in a good way, right? Because we're so different in terms of our hospitality and our warmth and the community of people who love books. I mean, last year's Miami Book Fair drew about 70,000 people.
Wow.
Between our online events, our in-person events, our all week long. So if you can't come on Monday, you can come on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. There's Sunday. And then throughout the year, people come out for our author events. Just last week on campus, we had Nora O'Donnell presenting a book about women's history, the women who made America. And, it was a Monday night, and there were, 400 people in attendance. Our college president, our college vice president, our new City of Miami mayor was there. And, and it was beautiful to see so many people turn out to learn about women's history. This is Women's History Month. Next week we have a program. It's the first in a new series. I mentioned that some of the ways that Miami Book Fair is supported, and how some of the ways that we can continue to do this work is through donor support. We have a sponsor, the Stacy and Eric Mendez Fund for Jewish Stories, who she again someone who moved to Miami recently or started coming to Miami about 5 years ago as a result of folks pandemic coming to Miami,
That
where they
recent influx of people
right.
escaping other places.
Yeah, and she fell in love with it. And all of the things we've been talking about that make Miami great are the reasons she's in love with it.
Wow.
This lack of, standing on ceremony, this lack of, separation between, communities and people. She loved it, and she's a big reader, and she is a theater producer. So, not only is she a big reader of novels and nonfiction, she's been involved, like embedded in bringing stories to the stage for her entire career. She very famously produced Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, I
which is
just
a-
saw that with my kids at the Miracle Theater.
Did you? Yes, it was. It was
Very
played
powerful.
there.
Yeah.
Incredible show, and now on Broadway at the Lincoln Center. Actually, she produced Ragtime, which
Wow.
was a book by E.L. Doctorow. It's funny because I was talking to someone from my office yesterday as I was driving her to her car, and I said, "Oh, we used to do events before we had the big room. We used to do events in this church. It's a big church that's downtown, old fashioned looking building."
Beautiful.
She's like, "I can't believe it. We used to do events." I'm like, "Yes, I saw E.L. Doctorow there in sometime before I came to work here, right? Sometime in the 90s." So yeah. We're doing an event next week.
So what is the event? I think that's a good
supported.
segue, and we're going to
Yeah.
get that on the screen as well. What is it called?
So it's called Stories We Share,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're doing is presenting a series of programs that highlight Jewish life and culture, books and stories about Jewish life and culture. You might already know that we also produce a Little Haiti Book Festival,
Yes.
and that's coming up also as well in the beginning of May. And we have our Spanish language program, books in Spanish from Latin America, from Spain. And those that happens all throughout the year as well as during the fair. So these year-round programs that we've developed that kind of help us focus on South Florida communities,
Mm-hmm.
because we like to highlight the communities that make up South Florida, and B, because I find that it's another way in which we bring people together to learn about each other's
Right.
cultures in South
Absolutely.
Florida, instead of we're going to stick to our own here and we're going to stick to our own there. I find that it's become more and more important to me as a person, and to what I feel is important for my job, to expose everyone to each other's lives, to each other's cultures. And I can't see a better way of doing that than through books. That's how I do it. Some people do it through film. The film festival is
Books
coming up too.
and food.
And food.
Those two things together are very powerful.
There's no party like a book party. So yeah, so that's what we're doing
That's
next
great.
week.
And
we
I
have
know you brought some of those books with you, and
Yeah.
we'll pop that up there. But tell us about some of the books or the authors.
Yeah, so these are the 4 authors that will be with us. It's actually Stacy Mendez herself
Mhm.
who will be moderating the discussion. This book, Allegra Goodman, wonderful, wonderful writer. These are all very well known and you know award-winning authors in their own right. And with our partner, the Jewish Book Council, we are bringing them to Miami to talk about their books, to talk about what it means. What is a Jewish story? Is there such a thing as a Jewish story? What reflections of life and Jewish people and the lives that they might have led in the past, such as with The Weight of Ink, which takes us back into the 1700s London, even further back into the Inquisition and the expulsion of Jewish people from Portugal and Spain, and then he brings us back into the present. So there's this dialogue. Scholars in present day England find a trove of papers from 1700s London, and there's a mystery about who is writing these books. And at the same time, that you're following the scholars in the present time, you're getting this incredibly full picture of what life in 1700s London is like. And, you know, I would I wanted to read a little bit from each of the books, but I think, it's probably too much. I would want to read the entire books, 500 pages. We'd be here
It's
till
okay. So
tomorrow.
people can buy the book and read it
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
But one of the things that really struck me, there was a line in The Weight of Ink that really struck me. And I was like, yes, this is really part of why we do this is not just Jewish history. This is our history, world history. And that's the same way I feel about Black history during Black History Month, and the same way I feel about Haitian, History Month, which is again in May. And actually, interestingly enough, Haitian History Month, which is in May, coincides with Jewish History Month, which is also in May. So we're all a part of the same human family.
Yeah, it's all part of the human experience, right?
And
we should have a Human History Month.
we should have a human history. We should have human history every day. I'm not sure that everyone's reading as much history as they could. But novels are a really excellent way,
Yeah.
to do that. I mean, I would actually, We Would Never, which is Tova Mervis's book. She'll also be here. It has a South Florida component, and there's a bit of a mystery. And there's a murder involved, and it's a little bit of a thriller, but at the same time is a very thoughtful way to think about family and what would you do for your family? What would, we all think we would never. And then a situation comes along, and what would we do?
Right.
And did we do it? So very, a very thoughtful book wrapped in what, is essentially a mystery or, a family affair.
Something relatable, right? So people relate to the story, but then they're also learning about the culture and about these things, and it breaks down barriers.
Yeah. And then you also come to understand, how alike we all really are.
Yeah.
We all, if we have, whether we have children, we all love our children, if we have them, our parents, if we're lucky, sometimes they drive us crazy. Sometimes they make our lives possible. And I think that's something that all of these books have in common, is this connection to family. Allegra Goodman's book, which just came out. It's gotten such great reviews. And even just the back of the book has, Maureen Corrigan, the New York Times Book Review, Ron Charles from the Washington Post, the USA Today. It is really an incredibly insightful, funny, but also wry and about family. It's the best opening chapter I've ever read. And I've read a lot of books.
Wow. You haven't read mine yet, so
No, but yours might win. But it's the best opening chapter, and of course, you see that photo, that picture of a cake on the cover.
I told you, it immediately made me hungry.
Yeah, it's apple cake, and the apple cake is a really big. It's a big character in the book. And so next week, when all of these authors are in town for their conversation with Stacy, we will be serving apple cake afterwards.
They said books and food, they pair all together.
And not just apple cake. We have we'll have bagel bar, with traditional Jewish deli sandwiches. But we can't forget that the Jewish community, just like every community, has so many different pieces.
Yes.
And so many strands from so many different countries and cultures that, over the years. So we've also have a great a family catering company that is doing burekas for us. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what's a bureka exactly? I said, it's a cross.
Ay, Dios.
Ay, Dios mío.
I thought I turned this off. I apologize.
Estás peor que yo. No. Somebody asked me, what's a bureka exactly? And I said, it's a cross between an empanada and a pastelito.
Oh my!
And everybody was like, oh, So if you don't even care about reading, you should definitely come out, because once you get a taste of a cross between an empanada and a pastelito, that's it. You're gonna love.
You sold me. You sold
that's
me.
It.
That an apple cake.
It's an apple cake. And music. We'll have music too. But all of these books, what the reason that we chose them in part because it's the Jewish Book Council, who's our partner, launched a wonderful initiative, and it's a subscription box, which
Mm.
are very popular right now,
Yeah.
and it's a book every other month. You subscribe, you get a book in
Oh,
the
that's
mail
fun.
every
Yeah.
other month, in a box with other kind of goodies, and so these are books that have been chosen for that series, but another reason we looked at these together, I looked at these together with my partners in book crime there in the office, because they really represented all the ways in which families form and reform and break apart and come together, and those moments. And I think that's true for whether it's a Jewish family or a Catholic, Christian family, Muslim family. We're so the same. We're
Yeah.
so the same.
Absolutely, and I think you could even take it further now. We're at a time, unfortunately, we live in very divisive times, and you could even say the American family right now is struggling to stay together, and the human family. And so, I think it's a great metaphor for what everyone feels like we're going through collectively right now. And so, anything like this, not just the books, but the events around the books that brings people together, I think is very timely. So, thank you for doing that.
I
And
love
I
it.
would imagine that's part of why you're doing it, or just a natural byproduct. But it's very important in these times. Anything we can do to bring people together,
I
especially
agree.
people from different backgrounds, so that we can learn from each other and learn that at the end of the day, we're more similar than we are different.
Yeah. Oh, so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all exactly the same.
Mhm.
I think people just, I don't understand why we forget that. I mean, we look the same, we walk the same. I mean, there's not even, two species of humans. It's just like one
The
human
one.
species. So, it breaks my heart every single day to feel and see these divisions and see how it's exploding all over the world. And um I'm from a very mixed background. For
Mhm.
my personal family background is, there's people from everywhere. Um, you know, every at some point some of them coalesced in Cuba, and that's where I was born, but we're from everywhere. And I think that's something that I've instinctually known, since I was a small child. These people are these aunts and uncles are from this part of the world. These aunts and uncles, oh yeah, their skin is different because they're from this other part of the world, and then we all mix somewhere in Cuba, right? Which is really the wonderful thing about not just the Caribbean, but about the Americas,
Yeah.
from Canada on down, to Tierra del Fuego. You know, we're made up of so many parts, and I don't know why it's so difficult for us to remember that. Um,
And the great thing about Miami is we embrace it.
we really do.
And I do think that's what makes us special. And hopefully we don't lose that because, there are people out there trying to divide and conquer, right? It's an old strategy. I think so far we've kind of hung in there as a city and still continue to embrace our multiculturalism, our diversity, and it's our strength, you know?
I really do think it is, and one of the reasons why. And yes, you're absolutely correct. I mean, this is what Book Fair does.
Yeah.
This is what Miami-Dade College does.
Hmm.
We are extremely lucky to be part of an institution. Miami Book Fair is extremely lucky, and our leadership is at both of Miami-Dade College and the rest of my colleagues at the Book Fair. That is one of the most important things that we do every day, is make sure that our campus, our spaces are safe and open, and that there's no tolerance for anyone who feels otherwise. But not just no tolerance, like, oh, I'm gonna get you out of here because you're
Hmm.
this kind of person or that, but like, okay, we get it. You might have these ideas and thoughts, and maybe what you need to do is come to this event or that
Hmm.
event. Come to the Little Haiti Book Festival if you are not familiar or you don't know much about Asian people other than, when you see
Yeah.
someone on the street or whatever. It's one of the reasons why we're doing this event on Jewish books as part of Miami Book Fair and at the Miami-Dade College campus. We really want our sponsor, Eric and Stacy Mendez, myself, our administration at the college, we really want to make these kinds of books and these kinds of activities available to people outside of a religiously affiliated setting, right?
Mhm.
Some people ask me, and I look at them like this, but I'm like, oh, how come you're doing it? They're not at the JCC. I'm like, well, because the JCC is already a place for Jewish people to gather.
Right.
I want Jewish people to gather, and I want non-Jewish people to feel comfortable coming in and gathering without thinking, well, maybe this is not a space for me because I'm of a different religion or whatever it is. Non-affiliated spaces are my my go-to for most or all of our events.
As they say, meet people where they are, right?
Yeah, or meet people at Miami-Dade College,
Exactly.
where everybody is.
You're everywhere.
Where
So that's
everybody is.
Lissette, listen, we're out of time, and
Aw.
we have so much more we could cover. So you're going to have to come back
I
regularly,
will,
and I would love
anytime.
for you to come back regularly because
Yeah.
you have, as you said, year-round programming. There are authors coming in and out that we can talk about. We're never going to have a shortage
No.
of things to discuss. So I want to thank you for appearing as my guest. I want to thank you for what you do. Really, it's
Thank
important
you.
work, and you do it with such great joy. And you're obviously very good at it because you continue to succeed, and the book fair succeeds. Thank you to the college for everything it does. As I said,
Absolutely.
I mean it. It's the most indispensable institution in Miami-Dade County, if not all of South Florida. And folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Miami Book Hub. As you see, we're having great guests and great discussions on everything book related and then some, right? So books are just kind of the starting point of the discussion, and it leads to so many different things.
That's what
Right?
books do.
Yeah.
You might start, with apple cake and end up in 17th century London. I mean,
Okay, so future shows, I have to have apple cake or food. You've made me very hungry today. I'll eat breakfast next time before we start. So yes, please follow us, share these videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel or to that of Miami's Community News. I should also thank Miami's Community News for co-producing the program and hosting us in this beautiful studio surrounded by books, not coincidentally. And that's all the time we have here on the Miami Book Hub, but please join us for future episodes. We have the interim director of the Miami-Dade Public Library System on deck, as well as other wonderful guests. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, keep reading, keep writing, and stay curious, Miami.